people, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, I'm hearing a lot of talk in relation to managers check and managers this, and we've got short lists and we're whittling it down to the last options and things like that. I hear that. I really do. I really hope it's someone that can turn this season around. Personally, I think even God himself couldn't, forgive me God, I want to go heaven and that, but I don't even think God could turn this thing around. We're so poor, we've got so much bad habits, our confidence and just mentally we look so frazzled and fragile. Consistency, there's none. Players are lacking on confidence. We're just playing poorly. There's several reasons, people. I believe whoever this new manager comes in, whatever, not just this season, if there's anything to be salvaged from the season, which mathematically there is, honestly in my heart I don't think there's a damn thing we can do beyond potentially an FA Cup run, hoping on Europa League, hoping on some mad dramatics in the top 4 race, which is gone, people. Listen, manager talk is one thing, but I urge the board. Again, it doesn't necessarily correlate, and the managers in charge of on-field matters, but as much as you're going out there and sourcing a new manager, new signings, whether it's in January or the summer, needs to be addressed. In an ideal world, you do, and I'm not going to sit here and say manager targets and managerial targets and all of this sort of stuff, people, but you do your due diligence. You identify someone that has the values of this club that we want to reintroduce. For specifically coaching, how are they a very hands-on manager? Where's the case studies of them not only improving teams but individual players, people? Because not many, but there are some players that you could move forward with. You've got 2 good strikers, you've got Pepe, you've got numerous young players there, you've got Guendouzi and Torreira who are not terrible, you've got Holding and Bellerin who are not amazing but you can walk forward with. Leno's not perfect, but you've got Leno. It's about the building blocks. Can he improve individuals, not only put his authority on the team, but make us move forward? That's one thing. If we do our job in that and find that manager, that's good. But in terms of signings, again, signings aren't everything. We can't always be talking about new, because by this logic, Arsenal's defence should be sorted out by now. 3-4 years now, forgive me if I'm wrong, and now we're still crying for it. We've been crying for a centre-half. Technically, with Saliba, there's a centre-half coming in the summer. But, do you get it? There's some, by that logic, in terms of just new signings, we'd be a better club. It don't work like that. We need someone that can identify how to defend, improve us defensively, and put the plans into motion. If the club do that, what should happen in tandem with that is the recruitment, because the recruitment has been terrible. Whether it was Wenger or Glazidis, we hear it was Glazidis. I'm not name dropping Xhaka because Xhaka was decent yesterday, but he's polarised opinion since he's been at Arsenal. Recruitment, Mustafi, recruitment. Do you get it? I think Pepe is going to be a success, but you compare him right now to probably, let's say, Pulisic, who's scoring goals for fun. Daniel James hasn't scored since August. I think Pepe is better than them and he'll come good, but really is there a leg to stand on? I'm not trying to name drop Pepe, I'm trying to make the case recruitment. Whoever signed off on David Luiz, do I really need to talk about that recruitment? It doesn't matter how good a manager is or we get in, if you're not going to back him, if not necessarily with money, but good recruitment, real scrutinised scouting reports and bringing in players that can benefit us, what's the point? I ain't got no players for to list off the top of my head. Well, is it Diallo of Brest or one of them teams? He looks decent in midfield. He's linked with Everton and Newcastle, playing in France. Go out there and scout the right players. Again, it's easy for me to sit here and say this, but you went and we should have got Saying now doing well at Leicester. You went and got Martinelli and Guendouzi, 2 decent players who, well, I was watching Guendouzi, but I didn't know nothing about Martinelli, has been decent. There's players out there. Identify them, move forward with them. Do you get it? Or splash the money and bring in players, because the intent, we need to, like I said, in tandem with finding that manager who can improve and do stuff, you need to give them individuals that can actually move forward with. We need the spine of this side. Like I said, people, come summer, the bulk of moves which happen in the summer, they've all been agreed now. Chairmans and agents are all having dinners now, dotting I's and crossing T's now. We need to be doing that. The spine of this side. You've got Leno, you've got Holding, you've got Bellerin, you've got Tierney. Bring in another centre-half or 2. You have some competent options when you flush out Mustafi, Socrates, actually all the experienced players. I'm willing to persist with Holding. Chambers is a good stopgap signing, a stopgap player, squad player at best. Saliba, obviously 19 years of age by the time he comes here. think he's going to be a good player. We don't know what we're going to get, and you need to give him time. We can't get gassed off the fact is he's a young French player with his great French players. He's 6'4". He's very composing. He's going to learn some harsh lessons in the Premier League playing against these strikers. But a platform in terms of him and Holding, potentially Chambers, bring in a top centre half or two if you can, whether that's someone who you scout or someone that's going to cost a pretty penny, bring them in. Do you get it? And then if you have a coach you can improve, you can move forward with. Because what was the point of really bringing in Torreira, Guendouzi, Leno and all of these people if you're not going to give Leno a defence to move forward with, if you haven't got specific plans for how Guendouzi, Torreira, Xhaka, how that midfield is going to operate and how they're going to not only support our midfield, but how do they defend? People, reality is, the back line, they're terrible. They make terrible problems consistently. But that's our last line of defence. Think about it logically. The opposition at some point has to start backwards to come forward, innit? Obviously not all goals are like that. Our strikers are our first line of defence. Our defenders are our first attackers. It sounds warped, but what I mean by that is playing out from the back. We've got to be able to defend first and foremost. Playing out from the back is slow, it's cumbersome, so you can see how it ties into our midfield. There's no runners, there's no movement. How can our strikers get into the game? I love our attacking options, but at times they don't press together. That was one thing I kept shouting. It seemed, in fact, I saw an improvement yesterday against Brighton, but our press. How do we press? We need to press together. There's no point one man pressing. Like we used to get gassed off Alexis because he was just a Duracell battery. And take nothing away from Alexis because we used to love it. But how much better could Alexis lead in that line pressing if the whole team pressed with him? You've all played Sunday League football. You've all played Power League. How many times? Power League's the best example. You know when your team's losing and you're just and that striker on your team's just chasing the ball. It might look good in terms of application, but what's the point? It's just piggy in the middle. Do you get it? Coordinated press from our front line isn't there. A lot of that goes down to coaching, but with some of these individuals, they're not there. Like, if I was to list hand on my heart players I could move forward with at this club, if I was gaffer, without talking about incomings, there's not many people. Let me try. I'd say Leno, Bellerin, Lacazette, Aubameyang, regardless of opinions on either or. Torreira. I actually could use Xhaka in the squad regardless of what he's been doing, but I'm not trying to say it's that. For the season, you could use Ozil, Tierney and Kolasinac. Tierney first choice, Kolasinac in the squad. The young players, they're relevant, but we'd use them. There's not too many people. There's not too many players you'd move forward with, but it's not a terrible squad. They just make terrible decisions. And regardless of if you believe our defence is poor or not, we definitely should be having more points on the board or playing better than we have. The board need to, listen, a new manager is one thing, but the board need to make sure that the proper recruitments are brought in. You go out and get... If you can't get someone who's Kante, who it doesn't matter about Kante's height. Nobody says Kante is not. People say other things about midfield, but nobody talks about Kante's height. Why? Because he'll put a foot in and whatnot. So if you can find that, cool. Me, I would like. I don't want to say Patrick Vieira, but someone 6 foot, able to break down play. Not necessarily. Well, he would. People that call Vieira defensive mid wasn't there. Wasn't watching. He's a box to box. You saw how he stride. We need ball carriers in midfield. We need strong men in that midfield. We need some people who are mobile in midfield. We need someone who can receive a ball off centre halves and play a decent pass, which was Vieira. Obviously, I'm not looking for that. Well, if we can find a young Vieira, come on, people, we'd be sorted. But I would like someone 6 foot plus, mobile, able to put a foot in. Because for me, you play him and Torreira, you play a cam, whether that's going to be Ozil or whoever. Let them do their thing. Torreira or this guy can play a forward pass as well. We'll be okay. Obviously, you've got Guendouzi, you can rotate and things like that. I love Guendouzi, as you don't know. But the board, Raul Sanllehi. In fact, you know what? To be honest, I don't know who's doing what and who's doing what. Let me be 100 in it. Like, I see the titles. Director of football, Edu, football relations or whatever, Raul Sanllehi, Vinay, all of these other guys. I see the titles, but I don't know who is sanctioning off on what. But what I do know is that you don't need to get it spot on. You need to help the new manager out. Centre half, absolute priority. Midfield, absolute priority. Obviously, we can nitpick and talk at other things. For instance, I would like a right back. I believe a right back's vital to play ahead of Bellerin or fight with Bellerin, because like I said, scouts can do their job, and I have question marks over Bellerin, same way I do over Leno. But admittedly, as we all know, them two are not priorities in terms of fixing, because you can move forward with them. There's other areas. If we get into a position where I can nitpick, then great. But Arsenal can't afford to nitpick. We need to get the basics spot on, to which we haven't, people. And Raul Sanllehi, all of these guys really have to be looked at, because it doesn't look encouraging, the players we're bringing in, being linked with, and just how we're making a mess of things, people, really and truly. On that note, though, I'm going to keep it moving and get out of here. So, people, Deluded. I'm out.